Okay, today's January 23rd, I believe. Yes, it is. It's a Saturday, and I'm out in Murphy Candler Park a little bit earlier than golden hour, and the sun is at my back. It'll dip down a little bit as I move toward the lake. I'm going to be talking today about what has been going on. I mentioned yesterday a few things having to do with the changeover of government from the control by the Republicans, Trump and Pence in the White House and vice presidency, and Biden and Harris for the Democratic Party, and Chuck Schumer replacing Mitch McConnell as the head of the Senate. We know now that Mitch McConnell has every intention of doing whatever he can to block the impeachment hearings that are going to be started at the beginning of February for Donald Trump, and also to bring justice to those people who committed sedition against the United States. The MAGA heads, the Trumpites that stormed Congress and tried to overthrow the U.S. government, to take over an election. In fact, Trump's appointment of judges has led us to the point where a judge who let a man out on bail who had ties around, he was going to kidnap people inside of the Congress when they were calling for the assassination, the hanging of Vice President Pence and Nancy Pelosi. And these people, a judge has let one of the ringleaders out on bond. If that person was Black, Hispanic, or Muslim, they would have never been released. This is the real problem with America. America treats white people different than it treats people of color. These Trump-supporting criminals stormed the Capitol violently, destroying property, going into offices, stealing documents, and they are being treated with kid gloves. This is outrageous. And we have to be aware that America has always treated traitors like this. The Confederates, during the aftermath of the Civil War, were treated very, very lightly. In fact, they were allowed to take power 11 years after the Civil War ended, once the Tilden Hayes election of 1876 occurred. So we have to have an analysis of what is going on. We have to understand that people like Ted Cruz and Senator Hawley and other people in Congress were sympathetic to this plot. Look how many military people were involved with this plot. There were a lot. Police officers, and you kind of expect that from police officers, but police officers were involved in this plot. You had all kinds of government officials, and we still don't know how high it goes. We know that in the Pentagon, a brother of one of Trump's disgraced officials, Flynn, was in the room when they decided not to send the National Guard to the Capitol. This was an act of sedition inside the Pentagon. Those officials, all of those officials, need to be charged and tried. They were part of the plot. Members of Congress were clearly part of the plot. Most notably, Ted Cruz and Senator Hawley. They were part of the plot. So we have to understand what this is really about and what's really going on. And that's the key that I think that so many people miss. They miss that this type of behavior is part and parcel of the big picture of America. America has always been tolerant of racists, white supremacists, and those who want to steal the land, the wealth, and the rights from people of color. America has not changed. The economy has changed, which has made for some slight differences in how things are done. But the basics of America are still the same. And we must understand that, or we will be continually fooled into thinking that there is progress. The progress that we perceive as progress is largely due to changes in the economic system. Understand, the Civil War was about slavery, but the North had a vested interest in ending slavery because of industrialization. They didn't want to have a slave workforce competing with a wage-based workforce, because that would raise the value of the workforce. It would make the workforce smaller. And we know how later on, after the end of the Civil War and the Industrial Revolution, people like Henry Ford recruited blacks from the South to go to Detroit to break the strikes. They saw this coming years before. This was what the fight was about. An agrarian landed aristocracy in the South, led by the founders of the nation. What the first 13 presidents were slaveholders, except John Quincy Adams. And later on, you had people who were more closely allied with industrialists who wanted to see the value of labor a lot cheaper. And so they did not see a slave system as beneficial to them. Now, segregation, they could put black workers in the lower jobs, cleaning jobs, maintenance jobs, and they could make the white force, particularly in the South, feel that they were somehow better because of their white skin, because they had the better jobs. In the North, it was basically the same system. We call it de facto. There was de facto segregation in practice and de jure in law. And this occurred all the way into the present. And it's been breaking down to some extent. My dad talked about fighting in World War II and coming back, and that the German that he fought in World War II could buy a house in a neighborhood which he couldn't buy a house in, and could get a job that my father couldn't get because of racial discrimination. I saw it in the schools when I was coming up in school, where in the 3rd grade at PS 45 in Staten Island, the assistant principal refused to accept my Iowa test scores from when we moved from Brooklyn to Staten Island because she felt that they were too high, that a Negro child could not have test scores that were higher than the white kids in the class. This is America, as it always has been, is now, and I'm afraid ever shall be, until some cataclysmic event destroys this imperial racist structure. Racism is structural. It's not about individual acts, though there are individual acts of racism. Racism is about a structural system based on the concept of white privilege and white supremacy. White people feel entitled to be in superior positions. That's how they feel. Even white liberals. Some white liberals are the worst. And when you correct a white liberal, they will get so angry at you. I had it happen to me with a friend I've known since I was 16 years old last year. And I was fed up, I'll be honest with you, with the level of stupidity that came out of her mouth. So this is the way America is. So I've been repeating this message here on YouTube for the past 3 years on the Onward Opinion channel. Do not expect the Biden administration to change America. Certain things, yes. Hopefully we can get those separated kids back together with their parents. We can protect the DACA kids. It's in the Democratic Party's interest to improve voting rights in the United States and to stop the move of people like Governor Kemp in Georgia to suppress the vote. Remember the formula. The formula is this, that in America, racial progress is made when that progress benefits not just the people of color, but a significant group of whites. Let me say it again. Racial progress is made in America when that progress also benefits a significant group of whites. That is the key. That's what we must understand. That is the nature of the American racial caste system. And yes, it is a caste system. I remember being in law school and describing it as such. And a white student, ignorant young man, said, "Oh, this is not India. We don't have a caste system in America." What was segregation? Whether it's de jure by law and de facto, it's a caste system based on race. What was the Chinese Exclusion Act of the 1880s? It was a caste system based upon race. What was the Muslim ban put in place by Trump? a caste system based on religion. This is American as apple pie. It's been around since before the United States, since 1619. It's been around from then to now. We must fight for change where we can, but we must be realistic and understand that this is a permanent, ongoing battle. That we gain our satisfaction, we gain our happiness from the small victories that we have. And we had one in this national election by throwing out the horrible Donald Trump, who's probably the worst president since Jackson. And there have been some bad ones. We had Andrew Johnson, we had Wilson more recently, and Andrew Jackson was just probably even worse than Trump because the amount of people he killed, and he was more intelligent. Trump is not intelligent. Thankfully, Trump wasn't very intelligent because he would have done even more damage, and he did a lot. So, until the next video, this is John Armwood signing off on the Armwood Opinion channel. Please hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel. I try to do these videos at least once every week or two. This is my second one this week, and I hope you enjoy it. Have a good day.